What's up? What's up, Spider-Man Nation? This is the second part of our little pilot episode here of our Spider-Man Web Show podcast, whatever you want to call it. We are back again this week to finish up our retrospective and outlook of the Amazing Spider-Man movie franchise. As you can see, I'm only joined by two people this week. Unfortunately, Thomas had a family emergency, so all of our thoughts go out to him. Let's hope that his family. Let's just. Best thoughts and wishes with everyone's family, and let's hope for, good recoveries for everything that is going on in their life. And let's introduce the rest of our panelists. Jan right there. Say hello to the people, Jan.
What's up?
And then you got James right there. You know him from the Angel Grove Radio podcast, or at least I hope you do, because that's the feed that this is on. So say hello to the people, James.
Oh, hi, people.
Oh gosh, I can't believe he just did that. Okay, yes, I don't know if anyone's going to get that reference, and I pity you if you do.
People probably will.
And I really feel sorry for you if you do, because that means
everybody knows the room, okay?
That means you have been through hell. So I pity you because you've been through hell. All right. So, all right, we're gonna talk today exclusively about the outlook of the Amazing Spider-Man movie franchise, and today basically what we've got to do, we've got a lot of information from not only Sony's hacked emails, but also our own personal fan speculation. Also, we're gonna take some fan theories that we've heard into consideration as well. So hopefully a bit of a ripe discussion today. So let's see if we can work that out. But it all basically, this entire outlook started after Amazing Spider-Man 2. After that movie was released, it underperformed at the box office by the amount that Sony wanted. By basic movie definition terms, it actually was a box office success, because not only did it make a profit, but it also made back quite a bit more than its budget. It was by definition a box office success, but under the circumstances, it was actually not. It was actually a bit of a disappointment for them. It only grossed around $709 million or something. I'm not sure the exact number, but it was under what they wanted.
$6 million. I think it's 700. I'll pull up the Wikipedia page right now, so give me a sec. But
Wikipedia, the most obvious site to go to whenever you need anything. That is what all sensible people do. That was not sarcasm by any way, shape, or form. Neither was that. All right. So what the hell was I talking about? Oh, yes. So based on the underperformance at the box office of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the people say the poor critical reception, it wasn't actually that bad of critical reception. I mean, it was a 53% rating. It was a 53% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Not terrible. Lower than any Spider-Man film to date. But I mean, that's not terrible, mainly because that's a majority of critics. Even though it's a slight majority of critics still did like this movie. So not terrible. But after
to give some context. Sorry, you go ahead.
After certain circumstances, Sony decided to kind of put Spider-Man on the back burner for a bit. They've delayed The Amazing Spider-Man 3 at this point in time. It was originally set for a 2016 release date. It has now been pushed back to 2018, which is, I'll be 21 by then. Holy hell. Oh my gosh. I'll be 21 in 2018.
I'll be 28. 27, 28, depending on when the summer that movie comes out.
Crimea River. So basically what we've got here is a Spider-Man movie that's been pushed back 2 years, and we've got multiple spin-off movies that are kind of in the works right now. They're a little bit up in the air based on things that are going to come to light as we get further into this discussion. But as of right now, what we know the current plans that we know of, Sony are going to produce a few spin-off movies from this. One is a Sinister Six film focusing on the villains of the franchise, Electro, Harry Goblin, Rhino, hopefully. Maybe the Lizard. I'd love to see Rhys Ifans. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. Rhys Ifans. I'd love to see him back as the Lizard. And maybe Mysterio, Craven, who else? Who knows? Maybe some more villains in there. We've also got a possible Venom spinoff in the works, which they haven't actually described what even the premise of that would be, or at least not as far as I've heard. Maybe someone else could fill me in on that. But they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't put out a premise for that. And they've also talked about an all-female movie, female lead spinoff movie.
It made trouble.
Yeah, well, we will get to that. We've talked about. They've talked about Black Cat, Silver Sable. We don't know who this character will be, so it's a possibility. And we've also talked about some ridiculous other movies that apparently they were actually under quite a bit of consideration. So we'll talk about those. But as of right now, we've got a couple spin-offs in the works until Amazing Spider-Man 3 comes in 2018. Right now, I want to get everyone's general thought on that idea, first of all. So, Jan, we'll start with you. What are your overall thoughts on Sony's current official plan with the spin-off films and such?
I think a movie about the Spider-Man villain sounds like it could be kind of a fun, like an anti-Avengers, a cool idea maybe. I think the problem is it's obvious that they have absolutely no idea, or they think it seemed obvious that they didn't really know what villains they were going to have in the movie, because they set up in the post credits of Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the Shazam thing, I think that was what it was called, where they had like pictures of the tech and they said, Rhino. I think it sounded like the lineup that was teased in the credits were Rhino, Craven, Green Goblin, Mysterio, Doc Ock, and the Vulture. So, and that kind of lines up with what was in the actual movie too. So, like, okay, that would make sense. But then apparently Mark Webb was making comment. There was like some bonus features on the DVD where he made some comments that it sounded like they weren't sure that was necessarily going to be the actual lineup in the movie that was released. That was just kind of a tease, and I thought that was a bad. Like, I think you shouldn't tease a character if you don't know you're going to do that character, in my opinion. So I feel like teasing the Sinister Six movie when you have like no idea of what the characters are actually going to be is just a terrible idea.
And my biggest problem with that is, some of the villains, I think they should have their own movie, and by own movie I mean them versus Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Before you
Put the 6 villains together and say, go star in your own movie.
Exactly. And I also think, so that one, the Sinister Six movie, I think if done right, it could be cool. And I think the lineup if they stick with that lineup that they teased in the post credits, I think it could potentially work out, because I don't know, I liked Harry in the second movie. I thought Rhino was kind of, just okay, but I know a lot of people dug him. I think Craven is a really awesome character. Mysterio is my personal favorite villain after Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin. Mysterio is like my third favorite. So I'd love to see him. Dr. Octopus, obviously, he's one of the greatest villains in all of Marvel Comics, so you can't really go wrong there. And the Vulture is also a criminally underrated villain, in my opinion, and he's a character that I've wanted to see in a movie for a long time. So, that lineup would be pretty cool, but I don't know if they're sticking with that. I don't think we know enough to form a solid opinion, but I feel like in concept there's potential. The Venom spinoff, I'm not as big a Venom fan as a lot of other people are. I think he's a character that is okay, but I think unless you do the Flash Thompson Venom, I don't really see a potential for it. And I think they probably wouldn't go with Flash Thompson. It sounds like they would have gone with Eddie Brock, from what little we know. So, I don't know. I think Eddie Brock is a good villain, but I don't know if he's a good solo character. I actually bought the Lethal Protector miniseries, and I haven't read it yet, but I don't know. Venom isn't a character that I love as much as a lot of other people do. And then what?
The 90s Venom miniseries that were technically a series, but they were counted as miniseries because it was like Marvel's first attempt at new #1 every 6 months. Yeah. And they're hit and miss. Some of them are really, really good, and some of them are just like, oh God, why did you print this?
Yeah, I've read a little bit of Venom Lethal Protector. It's okay. It's not anything great. It's passable, but it's not anything great. I didn't think it was worthy of its own title.
Yeah, and Venom's a character I think can be pretty cool, and there have been stories that have been awesome. But I feel like the thing with, and actually there were some comments about it that made me think maybe it could be good, because for me, I'm interested in Venom when he's played as an evil Spider-Man. I've said this before to you guys, but I always love a villain who can sort of represent what the hero could have become if they had made different decisions. And I feel like that, when written by David Michelinie and Zeb Wells and some other writers, Venom can represent that, but oftentimes he's just written as like another mindless monster who wants to eat Spider-Man. And I feel like when Venom's like, I think it really depends on how you write him for me. And I feel like whoever, I can't remember if it was Alex Kurtzman or Orsi or which one of those two guys, but I know the one who was writing Venom was making a comment about how Venom was he was looking at Venom as like a dark Spider-Man, and I thought that was, so I don't know.
Topher Grace saw that too.
What?
Topher Grace, who played in Spider-Man 3, said in interviews and stuff like that, he keep on going, where Peter Parker was with great power comes great responsibility. Eddie Brock didn't have that, so to him it was with great power comes great fun.
Yeah. And see, that's actually a good quote. So I think, I mean, I don't hate the Spider-Man 3 Venom as much as other people. That movie, I hate that movie as much as other people, but I hate it for different reasons.
At least they had a character who actually was a fan of Venom. Like, he remembers buying those Venom comics as a kid and wanted to be Venom.
And I don't think, anyway, so I'm going on way too long. I'm sorry. So I'll speed it up. Venom. Okay, I guess I probably would want to know more about it. And the female solo movie or whatever, we'll probably talk more about that. But it sounds like from those emails that they have absolutely no idea who the star of that movie is going to be. So I don't care, honestly. I don't care about Black Cat enough to see her own movie. I don't care about Silver Sable enough. I certainly don't care about Silk enough. So I just don't care about the female movie.
All right, just as a little fun fact here, Jan was mentioning someone writing the Venom script was talking about him being a Dark Spider-Man. That was Alex Kurtzman. Just a little fun fact in there.
That's what I thought, but I didn't sound like a moron, so I didn't say.
Yeah, Kurtzman. I think Kurtzman was actually attached to direct that movie for a little while. I'm not sure if
I remember reading that too.
Yeah, Kurtzman was attached to direct that movie, which. I'm not familiar with Alex Kurtzman at all, so I'm just going to ask this. I'm not insulting him in any way. I'm just asking: has he ever directed a movie before?
No, has he? I don't think so.
I know he's.
I gotta look it up like on IMDb or Wikipedia.
I'm looking it up right now. I'll do it right now.
He hasn't.
Because here's the thing that he and Orsi are going to be infamous for: Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah. I'm just happy with Orsi, we Power Ranger fans, for right now dodged the bullet when he saw that Star Trek thing and he said, I'm leaving Power Rangers and jumped into that. The whole fandom was like, oh, thank God. And then we heard that he was leaving that project too, and we're like, oh no, don't come back to us. And it's like there's no news about him in Power Rangers, so we're like, I think we dodged a bullet there.
Okay, he directed something called People Like Us. It looks like it was one of those indie movies that had, that's interesting, it had Chris Pine, who plays Captain Kirk, and it also had Elizabeth Banks, who played Betty Brant in the Raimi trilogy.
When was it released? It's starting to sound familiar.
2012. It looks like an indie movie.
Was Darren Criss in that movie?
Darren Criss. Give me a sec here. I'm not seeing his name anywhere.
Okay, then maybe.
No, I don't see Darren Criss.
No, he was in Girl Most Likely. Never mind.
Well, I'll just give my quick little opinion then about the spin-off movies. Like I said, it's like they're trying to be Marvel is with the Avengers, but there's a big difference between having all these superhero movies build up to a big team-up movie and all these spin-off movies about Myers characters that half a moviegoers don't even give a shit about building up to a mediocre Spider-Man movie.
And can I do another allegory? That is, you guys are going to roll your eyes because this is all I talk about now. But The Flash this year has been doing kind of like there's for those of you who probably aren't familiar with The Flash, he has a group of villains that he fights all the time called the Rogues, and they're kind of like Mr. Six, and it's basically a huge villain team up. And in The Flash is like introducing all of the Rogues in individual episodes this year, and then they're gonna either end of this season or next season, they haven't clarified, are gonna have them all team up. So I think that's the way to go, and is introduce all the villains, kind of have them individually fight Spider-Man. So I agree with you, James.
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of the fact that I think I think this is a big misunderstanding because what the problem here is Sony believes that Sony believes that it can ultimately take the Spider-Man brand of characters and stretch it out into the Marvel Cinematic, something similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here's the problem with that. Marvel Studios has several brands of characters that it's spread out over into a cinematic universe. Sony Pictures has one brand of characters.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's a big problem there. And plus, it's taking all these Spider-Man supporting characters, and they say, oh, we could totally make movies out of this. But here's the thing. Why do you think they're called supporting characters?
Exactly.
Because they're not strong.
I think there's enough Spider-Man characters to fill. Like, I think you could make. I mean, we'll get onto this. No, I'll say that.
Honestly, if I can say something here.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Usually, the way I feel about it is they're gonna have to put whether it's Andrew Garfield or a recast, rebooted Peter Parker or whatever. They're gonna have to put Spider-Man in Venom because there's a big part of Venom that is he wants to kill Spider-Man. And the same thing with the Sinister Six. They're Spider-Man villains. So you're going to put Spider-Man in those movies and possibly fighting those guys at the ending and bringing them to justice.
And what's the plot of that movie?
Why not call it Spider-Man 4 and Spider-Man 5? You're going to have movie audiences that are going to be like, so, wait, why is it called Spider-Man? Who are these guys? Why do we give them more screen time than Spider-Man? It's going to be, it's just all in all, it's a lose-lose, I think. I mean, the Sinister Six could work if you somehow have 6 villains survive 3 or 4 Spider-Man movies, maybe throw in a new one in the movie, and then they'll go, here you go. Sinister Six movie. Spider-Man 6.
Amazing Spider-Man 6 be him against them.
Or something
Boom.
like that. And I think another problem with it is that, like, what's the plot of a Sinister Six movie going to be? Because, like, the Sinister Six...
I guarantee you it's going to be the Thunderbolts. It's going to be a ragtag team of villains. They're going to be used by the government or something for a mission because it's Oscorp. They're going to go, rogue, and Spider-Man has to come in, swing in, and bring the justice in the final act. I guarantee you that's it.
Like, the Sinister Six, I mean, I think it was such an iconic story, and people, like, think of the Sinister Six as being a bigger deal than they are. I mean, the Sinister Six are, like, they've been in maybe, like, 5 or 6 stories in the, over Spider-Man's history. Like, they were in the annual, and then they weren't in any. They didn't team up again for like 20 years, and then they appeared in the 90s, and Michelini's around. I haven't actually read that story, but they showed up a few times in the 90s. They showed up a few times in the 2000s, and now I guess they technically have the Superior Foes, which is kind of the Sinister Six. I haven't read Superior Foes, but
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
everyone should read Superior Foes. Superior Foes is fantastic.
I got some money for Amazon.
I don't count Superior Foes as the Sinister Six. Like, I know they're called that in the book, but I just consider them the Superior Foes.
Oh yeah, they are not the Sinister Six at all, but it's a freaking awesome book. I love it.
I think of those like the Sinister
Superior. Aren't they called that in the first Superior? They're called the Sinister Six because that's why Ock gets like mad at them.
Yeah, they call themselves that, and I mean they consider themselves that, but we all know they aren't.
Yeah, it's like literally when you, like, in real life when you see those people that are like in your high school who think just because they listen to Eminem and they wear a chain they're some big bad gangsta, and it's like, dude, you're white and you live in the most richest neighborhood in town. Shut up.
I have so many of those kids in my school.
That's what the comic feels like. We're the Sinister Six. Yeah, you're Boomerang and a bunch of 5 idiots. Yeah, go away.
The only villain that I can see. We're going off track, but the only villain that I can see of that group that could be in the Sinister Six, like an actual Sinister Six, is the Shocker, just because he's
Shocker. I can see because Shocker, I think, play a good villain.
Well, and Shocker's fought Spider-Man, a lot. Like he's.
That's what I mean. Shocker can be a big threat to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But the writers now just see him as he's a lesser knockoff of Electro, so let's make jokes about him, and it's.
Now the writers just write. I think Brian Michael Bendis wrote him as a joke in Ultimate, and then that just transcended into the regular comics. Even though in the regular comics he was almost never played as a joke until Ultimate. Like he was always a pretty serious threat until.
I still remember 2008 character assassination storyline when him and Boomerang are talking about
their civic duty to vote.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
They're in the middle of a murder.
Oh, that was so
and
bad.
It's our civilian duty to vote. No, you two got arrested. Convicts or ex-cons or supervillains, I'm pretty sure can't vote.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have your rights stripped from you at that point. It's
because I think it's Boomerang. It might be Shocker, but I think it's Boomerang who's like, why should I vote, dude? And he starts talking like Adam West's Batman. It's your civic duty to cast your vote for the next president. And oh my God, it's giving me a headache.
See,
it's my civic duty to push
this Obama cover. We got this Obama cover, and then there's probably this McCain Iron Man cover, because like that was always the joke that they're probably gonna put McCain on an Iron Man cover if he wins. We got these two covers: Spider-Man on Obama and McCain on Iron Man. We got these two covers here. Which one are we gonna go with? So we got to promote that comic whenever it comes out. So let's have Shocker talk about voting.
Yeah.
All right, but
what are your thoughts on the spinoff,
so,
John?
yeah, let me continue with my thoughts before we start going off topic there.
Yeah.
Sinister Six, yeah, like I said, you're going to get up with a movie where it's like, I like these villains, but I just, every time I hear about it, I keep on thinking, this has to be a Spider-Man movie. Make it Amazing Spider-Man 6. It's the perfect theme right there. Boom. You make that the movie with them in it. Because you built up in the movies of Spider-Man, Green Goblin alive, Rhino alive, Electro alive, Doc Ock comes into Amazing Spider-Man 3, he's alive. You set all this stuff.
We don't know that Electro's alive, though. As far as we know, he's technically dead.
But Jamie Foxx is running around the earth saying, "Oh, electricity doesn't die."
But Jamie Foxx didn't write the movie. Jamie Foxx didn't write the movies. Actors say stuff like that all the time.
But they didn't do that because they had Peter Parker in character. They weren't going to have him kill Electro.
But we're getting into like Amazing Spider-Man 2 discussion, so we'll just agree to disagree for now. But Peter Parker, as far as he knew, technically killed Electro. So, I mean, he blew him up.
I don't think he killed Electro. Because Jamie Foxx said it.
Maybe he didn't
know.
Kill him, but he
it
thinks
goes
he did.
away, but it goes somewhere else. You can't kill a lightning bolt. It goes somewhere else.
Peter Parker saw him overload Max with electricity, and then he saw Max explode. So I don't see how.
It was a power overload.
But it came back. A power overload can happen like your house. You can have a power surge and lose power, but once you fix that circuit breaker, it comes back.
Yeah, Peter Parker's fairly. I think Peter Parker is fairly familiar with the laws of electricity and science and stuff. So.
I think because he has all those poles there of electricity, because it's a power plant or whatever the Oscar power plant or whatever it was supposed to be. I think he exploded and all his energy went into those things, and then once those recharged, he reformed.
No, I'm not saying that he's dead. I'm just saying that I think Peter has every reason to think he's dead. But we'll agree to disagree. But I think if I saw a guy,
if he turns around and goes, "Electro, I thought you were," "I'm not," or something like that, and he electrocutes him, or isn't it shocking? I'm alive. Some dumb pun,
Yeah,
I'm alive.
No, I'm just saying. I think, but yeah. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, like I was saying, make Sinister Six the sixth movie with these characters. I think would be the perfect thing to go. Because you build it up in Amazing Spider-Man. Because now you got Spider-Man 2, and then you got this, and then 4 years later to pay off in Amazing Spider-Man. That is dumb. Venom, again, it's like the Venom storyline will run into the same problems it did in Spider-Man 3. It should be at least 2 parts. Peter in the black suit and getting rid of it, and then Venom.
Yeah, totally.
I got a feeling they're going to go Ultimate. Maybe Peter had the suit on him for like the beginning of the movie, and then he loses it, and then Venom gets to the rest of the movie. But I just feel like there's just too much in the Venom storyline to just do in one movie.
Well, and I've got to say that I think. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that. I think the Venom is just too much. And as for the girl idea about a Spider-Man girl movie, I can see that working on paper, and I'm not trying to sound like a sexist pig, but I just don't think there's a Spider-Man character, female-wise, that can support her own movie because they're not as popular. I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm not trying to sound sexist here. But you think about the female superheroes, there's a long list before you get to Black Cat, or Silver Sable, or Spider-Woman, or Spider-Girl, or whatever, or Rania. There's a huge list. People think Wonder Woman. They think Black Widow now because of the Avengers. They think She-Hulk. It's a long list of female characters that you get to before you reach the nearest Spider-Man equivalent. So I don't think a movie like that would fit just because it's Spider-Man.
Well, and there's a ton of awesome female characters in comics that could have their own movies. It's just that Black Cat, like, you know, I don't think any of the Spider-Man female characters are interesting enough to hold their own movie. I think there's plenty of female characters that I think would deserve a movie. Like, you know, you said Wonder Woman. They're making that Supergirl show, which I think would looks pretty good.
Batgirl.
What? Batgirl, yeah. I mean, you know, there's tons of awesome female characters. I just don't think the Spider-Man universe has a ton of female characters that I think could carry their own film. They work great when they're supporting Spider-Man in his book. But
my biggest problem with this is Sony's trying to do this, what Marvel did, but Marvel has pretty much 90% of the Marvel universe in their movie library.
I think the only ones they're missing are Spider-Man, X-Men, and Fantastic Four. Is that correct?
And then, which brings me to my second topic. And then the next closest one is Sony. Is Fox, which can do it because you got Deadpool spin-offs, Wolverine spin-offs, X-Men movies, X-Force spin-offs. You can do first-class movies about, you know, back in the 60s with the original X-Men when Xavier was younger. Then you add on the whole fact that the Fantastic Four reboot is going to have a tie-in team-up movie with the X-Men one day if the movie's a hit. They got their own little cinematic universe they can do because they own two properties. One of them that's like a property inside of another even bigger property.
Yeah.
Sony just has Spider-Man, and that's it.
Would anyone be interested in seeing Spider-Man crossover with James Bond?
No.
I can't see you doing that. It's just like logistics. How would you fit Spider-Man and James Bond in the same role?
Sony, I tried to give you another idea there, but they shot it down. Okay, I guess that idea is off the table.
Yeah.
All right. My thoughts on this whole thing. I'm going to say this right now. I loved the first two Amazing Spider-Man movies. I thought they were fantastic. I thought that, yes, they had their faults, but I thought overall they were very, very good movies. Here's the problem. I think that a lot of the success of those movies is from a different, simpler plan that I believe Sony had before 2014. Because it seemed to me when I saw the first Amazing Spider-Man that they were setting up a Spider-Man film series, not a Spider-Man freaking spin-off whatever series.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that they had a very specific story that they wanted to tell over a very specific number of movies, and then I think they got a little carried away, and that does happen in life. I don't think any of us here can say that we haven't gotten carried away at some point, but I don't think we've ever gotten carried away so much that we would spend billions of dollars where we had no place spending it.
I agree with you, because I think I remember Mark Webb saying in an interview that his series was going to be a trilogy, and then each trilogy was going to add on, each movie in the trilogy was going to add on to the parent mystery and how it related to Oscorp and everything. And then it felt like you threw all of that stuff out in Spider-Man 2 so we can go into this bigger Sinister Six and Venom and all this stuff. It's going to be awesome.
Which is the exact place where this franchise fell apart. Because let me tell you right now, a Sinister Six movie, a Sinister Six movie, could it work? Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I am terrible at predicting things. I am absolutely terrible. I'm a terrible foreseer. But could it work? Maybe if you got like some really good talent on it. Venom, I'm not interested in a Venom movie. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I agree with everyone who says that I don't think it could work. I don't think it could work. I don't think the way they want to do it without Spider-Man and with all that, I don't see that being interesting. And I agree with people who say that the only way to make that work is to do Agent Venom. I think that could work, but, you know, I don't I don't think when people see that movie they're going to say, "Oh, this is part of a Spider-Man franchise." I don't think they're going to see that. So I definitely think that's a bit of a problem.
See a Spider-Man X character as a spy.
Exactly, and with the all-female movie, again, nothing sexist here. I don't have any problems with female characters or anything like that. But I'm racking my brain and I'm trying to think of a female character who could hold their own movie. But my question is, does Sony even have the rights to Spider-Woman? Because she, what? I'm trying to think
like 10 years ago it was brought up like in a Wizard magazine. They asked what other characters you got with the Spider-Man. They said all his world plus Spider-Woman because we wanted to make sure we had all our, that way we couldn't have like a competition, like somebody just take the Spider-Woman rights. Because at the time Marvel wasn't making their own movies, they didn't want another studio like Fox or something to see the success of Spider-Man and say, okay, we're going to do Spider-Woman in the next year.
Okay, that clears that up. I mean, a Spider-Woman movie, I don't really know that much about Spider-Woman. I know that there have been various incarnations of her. I'm thinking like a Jessica Drew Spider-Woman movie. Would that work? Again, it's basically ignorance on my part because I've not read a single issue of Spider-Woman. So, it's really not.
I think it's cool on paper, but I just don't see people saying, "Hey, let's go see the Spider-Woman movie."
I mean, I think the problem would be we've seen this before. It's basically just gender swapped. I think that could be. I think that would be what the general film-going audience would say. I mean, obviously, anyone who knows Spider-Woman knows that there is more to her than just being, a woman with spider powers. Obviously, there is more to the character fundamentally. Obviously, we as comic fans know that. But I'm just trying to think, what would the general film-going audience think? I mean,
I don't even know anything about Spider-Woman. Like, what are her abilities?
Why is this girl Spider-Man? This looks stupid, lame. I'm not seeing this.
I mean, I'm not a casual film goer in this situation. I'm not going to pretend to be. So maybe it's wrong that I'm trying to maybe think that, trying to maybe think like one. But I'm just thinking maybe that's what the casual film goer would think. So that's my concern with that. And I agree, Black Cat, Silver Sable, not really sold on those movies. So, I mean,
well, it's like this. It's like it has nothing to do with being a woman. It'd be like the same thing because the Batman movies were hit, that if DC announced, we're going to be doing a Red Hood Jason Todd movie. And I love Jason Todd. I love the Red Hood. But the movie-going audience that is the general public doesn't know who Jason Todd is.
Exactly.
So Red Hood coming soon, they're going to think, what, is this a superhero Little Red Riding Hood? What? And that's going to be the problem you're going to find with these Spider-Man characters, like Spider-Woman.
And with the Black Cat, what is the immediate comparison going to be?
Catwoman.
Exactly. The immediate comparison is going to be to Catwoman, and so that's going to turn people off right there because they're going to say, "Oh, well, they're just ripping off Batman," and that's going to hurt them quite a bit. So
just think about it this way: Anne Hathaway was cast for Spider-Man 4 as Felicia Hardy. Sure, she was going to be the Vultress and not Black Cat, but literally, she went from being Felicia Hardy to being Selena Kyle in the span of a year. I mean, the comparisons are always going to be there between the two characters.
You know who I'd love to see play the Black Cat? I'd love to see Christina Hendricks play the Black Cat. I think not only is she a good actress, I think she looks like the Black Cat, kind of.
That's why I think if you have Black Cat in the movies, you're going to end up with Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Felicia Hardy's a character, and you might have a little hints, nudge, nudge, that she's Black Cat, or might become Black Cat one day, but you won't ever actually see Black Cat because they don't want to be compared to Catwoman.
Exactly. And I
think Christina Hendricks might be a little bit old.
Whatever. I think, my big problem with this is that it definitely appears to me that Sony had a solid plan set in place with Mark and Andrew before all of the, really before the.
What they did, really, I don't think. I think Mark Webb said in interviews after ASM1, he said that, yeah, we don't really have a plan yet for what 2 would be, but we got a general idea of what we might want to do. They had no plan.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a bad wording on my part. It's like they had an idea, and it was a fairly decent idea of what they wanted to do, and what ended up happening was, they wanted to tell us a specific story, and then it just got a little bit out of control, and it's disappointing to me because I thought, especially after the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, that this franchise had promise, and again, I do think that Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 are very good films, but I don't think that what they're doing right now, or what the official plan is right now, it may change, but the official plan right now is not a good one, as far as I'm concerned. And plus, look at it this way: when they release Amazing Spider-Man 3 in 2018, Andrew Garfield is going to be 35 years old. Let me say this right now. I love Andrew Garfield. I think he's a fantastic Spider-Man, but he was really, you could tell he was getting older in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I don't even want to imagine what it would be like in Amazing Spider-Man 3. I mean, I love that. I do not mean that in any way. I do not intend to any way disrespect Andrew Garfield. I think Andrew Garfield is fantastic, but he was definitely looking his age.
Well, and I think you also, I think this spin-off plan didn't even, I think what happened was Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out, and they realized, they really listened to the criticisms, and they said, okay, maybe we went a little bit too dark, maybe people don't really care about, oh my god, my cat's meowing at me, they don't really care about the parents thing, they just, what do you want, cat? Sorry. They don't really care about the parents thing. They don't, so I think some of that stuff didn't go over well. So they said, okay, so, make the movie more lighthearted, and they kind of got the parent subplot out of the way and decided to change direction a little bit, which we all agreed that the parent subplot was kind of a dud in the first movie and the second movie. So I think, even though the Sinister Six thing might be kind of thrown together, I think that's more interesting to me as a fan than something about his parents. And I think when they were filming Amazing 2, I don't think they were planning on it becoming, on all the spin-offs. I think they were just, making Amazing 2, and then, kind of in between post-production and when they were prepping the movie and when they were releasing the trailers is when they decided to make it a whole universe. But I don't think they were planning on it being a universe thing when they were filming Amazing 2. That's just my.
I think they ran into the same problems that Sam Raimi says he ran into with Spider-Man 3. They wanted to top themselves.
It's a definite theory. It's a definite possibility. I mean, that is something that I find with a lot of movies that end up actually not topping themselves, is that they tried a bit too hard with it. So I mean,
that's just how it screams to me, John and Jan, is that they saw the movie and it was a relatively good movie. It was Spider-Man 1. I mean, by general public. It wasn't like it was the best superhero movie of all time. I mean, it came out the same year as The Avengers and Dark Knight Rises. I mean, you're not going to get that, I don't care who you are. That year was like a bad year for anybody who's not named Batman or The Avengers. And it did well. I mean, it was the number 3 superhero movie. I think there's only maybe one or two other ones that came out there, like an X-Men or something like that. It was pretty much just was the 3rd best superhero movie, and had fans, and you had people who were shipping, on MTV.com, all the characters and stuff like that, and they had a good movie, and they were like,
wow, people thought that we were gonna fuck this up, and we did, and we proved we don't need Sam Raimi. Now, what was our plan for Spider-Man 2? Is going to be, well, we don't have a really good plan, but we were going to sprinkle in some family stuff. No, we're going to put Harry in there. Let's put Mary Jane in there. Let's put Electro in there. And then after that, we'll throw in the Sinister Six because we need 6 villains in the sequel. No, we'll make that its own movie. We got to have Venom. Venom, the kids love the Venom. Oh, God, fuck it. Let's make him his own movie. We can do our own Avengers. Like, that's what it screams to me.
It's not a good situation that they're in right now, and
oh no,
it's not a good situation at all. And I think that's a good segue to what sort of happened in the past couple of months. Sony apparently didn't. I don't think Sony updated their AVG security. Obviously, I doubt they use AVG. Just kind of that's making a joke, but I don't think they updated their security very well, and looks like someone got in. I'm not gonna say who it was because I'm not gonna start that, but I'm not. Someone got in, and it looks like some stuff was uncovered. A lot of it, some of it dealing with James Bond, which apparently the James Bond script is absolutely atrocious from what I hear. Apparently Sony itself admits that. They got into
the people who hacked into it released it online. The new Annie remake.
They got into the interview stuff, and they got into Spider-Man. They got into Spider-Man stuff quite a bit, with a lot of what was released on some of these email hacks. It details some plans that maybe Sony isn't actually going to go ahead with the official stuff, the current official stuff, the Sinister Six and the spin-off films, and they're actually going to try a few different things. One of the main things that they talked about with this, with these spin-off or with these talks, was that Sony actually did negotiate with Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige about maybe putting Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, maybe including him in Captain America: Civil War, maybe including him in Avengers: Infinity Parts 1 and 2. It's an interesting idea. They're talking with Marvel about they allegedly talked with Marvel about maybe putting Spider-Man in the MCU somehow. And the exact details were never really revealed, but it really just boiled down to they want to include him in there, and they would kind of correct me if I'm wrong. They would get Marvel would get creative rights, and Sony would get distribution rights. Was that how it was?
Basically, anytime Spider-Man appears in a Marvel movie, Sony gets some cash for it. Gets some of the share of profit for it, even if it's just a quick little cameo or name drop.
Pretty much, it's like because they will still own the film rights, but they're kind of like They're kind of selling.
Basically, the way I saw it is that Sony will do the solo Spider-Man movies in the reboot franchise, in the third reboot franchise, and Marvel Studios will get some money for it because it's going to take place in their cinematic universe. And then when he appears in cameos in those other hero movies, whether it be Avengers or Cap or Iron Man or whatever, Sony then will get some of the money.
It's interesting. Let's just say that.
If they do that, I want him in the Ant-Man movie just so we can get the whole Wasp and Spiders bullshit that Wasp used to say for all the 60s. I don't trust Spider-Man because Wasp and Spiders are mortal enemies. Okay, you're a woman and he's a man. You're not insects.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. I'm having flashbacks to Amazing Annual 3 right now.
And also Ant-Man in Tales of Ashantis 57. Oh god, is that so bad? It's like, no wonder Hank Pym slapped you. Wait, did I say that out loud?
Jeez! Okay,
moving off. I do not console the people. I'm just making a Hank Pym joke. I do not hit women. I love women. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you should ever touch a woman to cause her physical harm ever. I'm saying that right now. I'm not supporting Ray Rice. I'm just saying it's hilarious all the jokes you can make about Hank Pym, especially now the fact that he's being played by Michael Douglas. Because the whole thought of Michael Douglas going, "I need to spank a bitch," it's just hilarious.
Okay, this is so bad. It's the
what are you guys talking about?
Ant-Man.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know what this.
I made a joke about the way Wasp used to treat Spider-Man in the '60s whenever they would appear in crossovers.
Oh my god, I hate
that. Goes, Wasp. I said no wonder Hank Pym needed to slap her. And then John got so mad at me for that.
I didn't get mad. I was just like, oh, jeez. Okay, we're not gonna get some comments about that. Thank you, Mr.
I apologize. I just was making a Hank Pym joke. I don't actually think that way.
All right, but with Spider-Man in the MCU, it opens up some possibilities for cameos and so in a new kind of reboot trilogy with Marvel under I read somewhere I think that they would have creative rights. I'm not sure, but
They would. I'm pretty sure
It
they
makes
wouldn't do it
sense.
without creative.
What I think that means is they get to stay on actor, they get to stay on costume, and they get to stay on the story.
yeah, basically it's basically the
So it'll be like they'll give them the shot. Okay, here's all the Marvel Universe wants to do the Spider-Man stick. Change this, change that, keep that. Okay, good. Okay, here's what we want to do. Spider-Man's going to be just like he was in the Civil War storyline, only instead of being married to Mary Jane, they're going to be dating, and Aunt May's going to find out the secret, and we're going to end the movie where you can take it off in a spin-off with him outlaw from like, oh, yeah, we don't really like that. We don't want to do that. Can you make him just being a teenager, and he's caught in the middle between these two guys in Civil War and Infinity War? Whatever's going to happen. Okay, done. Like, that's the way I see it's going to happen.
Well, Kevin Feige said that the idea of Captain America Civil War is actually going to be very different from the Civil War event in the comics. Thank Josh.
How I can see how the creative thing would go. I wasn't saying that's exactly what's going to happen. Obviously,
Yeah, I do not like Civil War in the comics, and
I hate Civil War.
I do not like Civil War in the comics, and I would not want to see it I would not want to see it adapted into a film.
I don't think anyone likes Civil War that much. Like, I don't think I've heard a single positive thing said about that comic.
well, I think the worst part about Civil War, and I know that this guy has kind of like, a diverse, some people hate him, some people like him. I personally like him. Linkara, he said about Civil War, I think what he said, he hit it right on the money. Marvel did not go online or press releases or even in the book itself print out what is exactly the laws of the Resurrection Act. So depending on whose side was the characters on, they just roll with it. So with Captain America and stuff like that, they would show the rules as being slightly different, where in Amazing Spider-Man they were like Nazi. Because there was no set in stone, this is what the law says. It was just heroes need to take off their mask and fight for the government, and here's all these other things that are blurred lines, kind of contradictions, and we don't know exactly what it is. Okay, go write stories about them. Your character is against it, your character is for it, go. And you ended up with like a jumble mess, which was Civil War.
Yeah, Civil War was not a good story. Not a good story.
Didn't Sue Storm have sex with Namor? Or something like, I don't know where I heard that from, but like
I'm hearing this for the first time right now. I've
you know what? You know, one character I despise above all characters in Marvel is Namor. Namor's a prick.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I froze for a few minutes. I'm making sure.
All right, but it's
the way I would like to see them do Civil War in the movie would be, it's an aftermath of Age of Ultron, and you have Iron Man and Cap on different sides and are arguing, and they get into fights, but not so much an actual all-out war. It's just that the Avengers are broken up and they're not getting along, and then it builds up to Infinity War where it's the reunion, they get back together as the new Avengers and blah, blah, blah.
All right.
I mean, it's the Russo brothers, so it should be pretty good either way, because they made Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier was great. So
I just really hope that if they get Spider-Man, that they find a way to do him that is not just let's just throw him in there because we got him now.
Yeah.
I hope if they get Spider-Man, they find a way to write him correctly, like actually write him, maybe let's like write Spider-Man as he would actually react to the situation and not just contrive a bunch of things just to move the plot along like they did in the comics. All right.
I'm really fearing that you're going to end up with him and Captain America, and he's going to swing by for a split second, and he's going to go, "I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man," and then swing off. And it's like, there he is, Dome. We got him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He can go back to Sony now. And it's like, I hope it's not that. I hope if they do have him, they have a plan, which it sounds like they do. Like what we've been hearing from like the hacked email is that they want to put him in the Iron Spider and everything, and have him being like Tony Stark is like helping mentor him. So if they have that plan, and you can say he's a high school kid who's really impressionable, and here comes Iron Man, who is the big shot superhero in the cinematic universe, and he's coming in to say, "I'm going to mentor you," and Peters is a professional teenager, I think that can be a damn good story.
I would love to see Spider-Man and Robert Downey Jr. go back and forth. That would be
Because that's what you do. Because if you want it, because the Civil War is going to be different in the movie, but if you still want to have that whole Peter was kind of like it was like a mentor-teacher role, and then Peter breaks apart when he says, "I can't handle this no more." You can change that to being just he can't stand Tony.
Yeah.
So eventually, he's like, "You're just too nuts for me. I'm gone. Bye."
And what they want. So they've talked about putting Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War. They've talked about doing some solo movies with him. They've talked about putting him in the Avengers. I mean, just in general, would we be in favor of Spider-Man being included in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yes and no. I think I want. I think I still, in a perfect world, would like at least one more movie with Andrew and Mark Webb, just to wrap up that friend. Just kind of put a I don't know what the word is. Finish off their storylines and wrap everything up. I feel like the Amazing 2 ends on kind of a cliffhanger, and I want to see some closure for that version of Peter Parker. But then, if given the choice between getting a resolution to that or just seeing I feel like if Spider-Man goes to Marvel, it'll be like the best Spider-Man yet. And I feel like if given the choice between another Amazing Spider-Man, which is kind of like so far has been kind of hit and miss, or like a movie that makes Spider-Man, that tops even Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, I think I'd probably pick just reboot it again. But preferably, I would like at least one more movie with Andrew and Mark. So I'm not sure how to feel about it. Either way, it'll be bittersweet for me.
I think the best way to explain this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love it. I love Iron Man. I love the 4 movies. I love Guardians of the Galaxy this summer. I love the Howard the Duck cameo in Galaxy of the Guardians this summer. I love Captain America. I love the Avengers. I love the fact they're going to do Netflix series with Daredevil and Luke Cage, and they're going to build them up in those, and then if those are successful, put them in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the movie. So those shows are taking place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love all that stuff, but in my opinion, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm not going to say it's not legit or not whatever, it's not legit or it's not, authentic or whatever, any bullshit you want to say, but I will say it's not complete until they get Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four or both. Those are 2 big components in New York. Where the X-Men, you could have them with Fox, and I'm not saying there's a shot at the X-Men. I love X-Men comic books. I'm currently reading all new X-Men, and I love that book. My shot is that the X-Men is really standalone. Like, you got them tying in events like Civil War and Secret Invasion, and you have them tying in with stuff going on now. But it always felt like with the X-Men, they were like their own little niche universe inside the Marvel universe. If they had their own things going on, compared to what was going on in the Marvel U. Maybe Wolverine, he had the crossover appeal because he was in the Avengers and stuff like that in other books. But besides for that, they were kind of really standalone, their own kind of like niche universe inside the Marvel universe. So if they stay with Fox, I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. I'm going to be like, okay, it's still like the complete Marvel U to me. Where without them or the Fantastic Four, it feels like it's not complete because you need the FF and you need Spider-Man in there.
Well, I think X-Men actually works better without the other Marvel superheroes because it always was really hard to swallow for me that
What's the difference between a mutant and Captain America? Because technically Captain America is a mutant.
Yeah, well, it's like I thought it was really silly that there was this hatred towards mutants and the X-Men, yet the Avengers, who were also people with superhuman abilities, or not X-Men, the Avengers, who are also people with superhuman abilities, are loved and adored by the public.
It works in some cases, because like with Spider-Man, Jonah hates him, and the world.
But they don't hate Spider-Man because he has powers. They hate him because he wears a mask. I feel like they would, and there's even been instances where the people of New York actually like Spider-Man, and more than you would think. Like, I mean, I feel like Spider-Man doesn't exactly count because they don't like him more because they don't trust him because he wears a mask and because Jonah is always making it look like he's a criminal, and there's like 15 villains out there who have impersonated Spider-Man and robbed banks and stuff. So I feel like it's more because of that than that he has superhuman abilities. Where I feel like
my point is that J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man taking place in the X-Men, where he can take that mutant hysteria and spin it against Spider-Man, makes sense.
But then at the same time, you see the Fantastic Four herald as Earth-saving heroes, and the Avengers Earth-saving heroes. Then you start to walk into this, well, why are the mutants getting shit for being born with superpowers where guy gets bit by a radioactive spider or they get hit by cosmic rays in space and get superpowers, and they're the most coolest people ever.
Yeah.
It's
That's why I said the X-Men to me are always a kind of niche universe inside the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that, James. I think you're right in the money.
for me, with including Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm going to agree with Jan, and I'm going to take it a step further. I really do want an Amazing Spider-Man 3, but here's the thing, though. I kind of don't want it the way that Sony is thinking about it right now. I kind of want the Amazing Spider-Man 3 that Mark and Andrew wanted to make, not the movie that Sony wants to make, because I feel like Mark and Andrew had a pretty strong vision, and that vision has been lost now in this mess that Sony's in. So I really want to see Mark and Andrew's Amazing Spider-Man 3, not Sony's Amazing Spider-Man 3, if that makes any sense. And I think with putting Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think that could be a lot of fun, and I don't have a problem with him being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe eventually. But I've always kind of liked the idea of Spider-Man being the only superhero in New York. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I kind of like the idea that Spider-Man's the only guy in New York who's really a superhero. I mean, I'm not opposed to him being in the MCU, but I mean, I'm not really for it, but I'm not really against it. I'm just meh.
I'm kind of the opposite of you. I'm not really against it, but I'm also not really for him being the only solo superhero. Because I feel like that's one of the great things about Spider-Man is that at times in the comics, he has made out, like especially in the Stan Lee days, I'm the only hero who can stop this villain, even though like he's right across the street to the Baxter Building or something like that. And there's some moments we get that, but I feel like one of the great things about him is that he gets to make parallels between him and his other heroes. Like you have issues where he's like, why the hell does people just kiss Tony Stark's ass? And he's the biggest jerk of an alcoholic, and he's the greatest thing in the world to them. And here I just saved the baby from burning building, and they're throwing trash at me.
Yep. Well, that's to make another. I don't know why I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm probably really aggravating, but I'm going to make another comparison to the Flash. That's the same thing where I think it's really funny how like in the Flash, how the Flash is like wanted by the police, and there's even a task force set up to stop him. And the Flash is like the most straight arrow, goody two shoes superhero who literally in one episode stops to help a guy paint a building that he's working on. Yet Arrow, who is like killing people and snapping necks in Starling City, is on completely good terms with the police. And I think that's like, so I see what James is saying. There is kind of a fun contrast where Spider-Man's always like, Captain America never has to put up with this crap, when he has to like change in the closet whatever, like when he's, going through all kinds of crazy stuff to try to put on his costume or, try to get to where he has to fight crime and another superhero is kind of stolen his thunder. Or I think there's a lot of fun to be had with Spider-Man in the Marvel universe. But at the same time, I also agree with John's point about how having Peter Parker be the only person in New York equipped to stop supervillains is also works for the character a lot, because if it's a little bit, it makes you understand why he takes it so seriously that he's the only, he actually is the only person who can stop, the Rhino, because they're, if you have Thor, then you're kind of thinking, well, why isn't, someone else who's probably even more, who probably could take, the Rhino down in like 3 seconds there.
Or if it's a problem for them, it'd be like, why can't they just call up their other Avenger teammates and then get it done in 5 seconds?
And the Avengers are useless in Spider-Man comics, because like every time, some crazy villain.
Dude, don't get me started about the Avengers in current Spider-Man comics. Can we please get off their subject? Because literally, it's like a love-hate relationship with the Avengers. I love them, but in the comics, because of Superior and stuff, I just want to.
Yeah.
It's something that I hear a lot of people say that they want Spider-Man in the MCU. I'm kind of meh about it. It seems like you guys are pretty positive about it, but one of the big things that this report's been kind of contradicted. It's almost kind of what website you go to, but one
I think it's happening.
No, I'm talking about something else.
Oh.
It depends on what website you go to, but a majority consensus I hear is that if Marvel does work out a deal with Sony to work together with Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield is not a part of the equation.
No.
That right there will break the deal for me, because Andrew Garfield, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Andrew Garfield is a fantastic Spider-Man in my opinion, and I think that if they were to just throw him away when he has not lived up to his full potential yet, he has not been able to finish his story, I definitely think that is a major, major mistake. And plus, who would not want to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man go back and forth?
That'd be awesome.
What's going on, Shellhead? Like, I can already see the conversation going on. Oh, God. Yeah, I can already see it right now, where he turns to him and he goes, "So, Parker, why don't you make money off these, web shooters?" And then Peter be like, "It's not about that, Tony." Being like a really serious moment, it's not about that. And then all of a sudden he goes, "Besides, I don't got a big ego like you and your metallic helmet," or something like that. I can see them. I know that's really lame, but I'm not a screenwriter. I can see, like, the quips going back and forth between pretty much, like, Tony's like a rich Peter Parker. Like, he's the smart scientist, and Peter's kind of like almost, you can make it like he's kind of like jealous in a quirky way, like, this. And maybe because, he doesn't really know, he knows necessarily that Oscorp is bad and evil, but it could also be there's like a little bit of, I was created by Oscorp and so are my villains, so I'm better than your Stark Tech. I know that's not going to be a line they're going to use, but I can see a joke about, well, I'm General in Oscorp, well, you're Stark Tech, Tony, or something like that. I can see that. As like just jokes like that with them quipping back and forth at each other.
I think I understand how that would be a deal breaker for you, John. I think for me, the thing is, I really like Andrew Garfield. I think he was a great casting choice. I think he gave a great performance in both movies. I prefer him in the second film to the first. I think he was good in both, but I think the second film was when he really came into his own. I still kind of prefer Tobey Maguire, but that's just me. But I respect your opinion. I know Andrew Garfield is actually more popular with fans than Maguire is. I'm actually in the minority of preferring Maguire. But I think for me, it's just, even if it was Maguire, I want good Spider-Man movies again. And I feel like Amazing 2 was a good movie. Well, actually, I don't think Amazing 2 was a good movie. I think Amazing 2 was a good Spider-Man movie. I think if I wasn't a Spider-Man fan, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much, but I feel like it really, like James was saying last week, I think that movie really, all the characters felt like right on the money for the most part. So just seeing these characters that I've grown up loving portrayed well for me as a fan was something that I really enjoyed, even if I'll admit it wasn't as good as, a lot, as, Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man 2 or some other superhero movies.
Well,
but I think I just want a movie. I want like Spider-Man to get a movie that's as good as Winter Soldier, or Spider-Man to get a movie that's as good as X-Men First Class. I want a Spider-Man movie that I can just love, all around. And I have not, since Raimi left, I haven't gotten that. And I feel like I want. If selling it to Marvel and losing Andrew Garfield is the price to pay, I think it's a price I'm willing to pay. So.
The way I feel about it is the same way John does. I do feel like I really wish they would say that, but I can see Marvel's point. I can play devil's advocate. I can see they want their Spider-Man. They don't want Toby. They don't want Andrew. They don't want none of the voices is from the cartoons, thank God. They want their own Spider-Man. And the problem with that is I feel like that, Andrew Garfield played a perfect Peter Parker. I mean, not Peter Parker, I mean perfect Spider-Man, and a pretty decent, passable Peter Parker. And secondly, I believe that you can easily slide ASM franchise into the Marvel U.
Yeah, you could. You could slide, I mean, I don't want them to do the Raimi version of the Marvel U, but you could probably do that too. But,
I think the Raimi movies you can too. Because the last movie was 2007, and first Iron Man is 2008. So you can honestly, if you want to, say that the events of Spider-Man took place before all the superhero stuff, like Peter was the beginning of it. And then, so that way in Iron Man 1, Nick Fury's line about, you think you're the only person with superpowers? you can tie. Well, he's the first movie superhero. So where does he get that line from? Well, Spider-Man.
But
also, the way I've seen it, if before the news came out about Civil War being a completely different plot than the comic, that would be the easiest way. Because you can slide in the Raimi movies as in taking place before Iron Man.
Or even Garfield's movies.
No, but I'm just saying, though, if you want to put in the Tobey Spider-Man, if they want to, they weren't, and I'm not saying they will. But it seemed you could do that one, too, because his movies took place before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so you could say the movies took place before Iron Man and all that stuff came into focus and stuff like that. And then if you wanted to do Civil War as the actual comic book Civil War, then 8 years removed from Spider-Man 3, you can honestly believe that he's now in his 30s, maybe even close to his 40s, Peter Parker. He's getting older. He's married to Mary Jane. He has an aunt to take care of. He's working as the teacher from the JMS. And here comes the Resurrection Act, and it's pulling him apart. I can see that honestly happening. Mm-hmm. And that would fit with the Tobey Spider-Man.
And I want to respond to a point that you guys brought up a few minutes ago about you understand Marvel's position on, they want their own Spider-Man. I absolutely understand that. I mean, if I was Marvel, I probably would feel the same way. I really wouldn't want, remnants of Sony's Spider-Man in there. I would want the character to be my own. I do understand that from a business standpoint. I completely understand that. But as a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies and as a big fan of Andrew Garfield, I'm not really for that. So I do understand where Marvel's coming from. It's just not my personal choice as a fan.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's like this. As a fan, I can say that, if I had the choice and if I was Sony or I was Marvel, I would have Tobey, or I would have Andrew, or I would have this guy. But I honestly, if I was Marvel and I got this, I would say, screw those guys. I want my own Spider-Man.
And I think with good writing, I think it is possible for someone else to surpass Andrew. I think if you gave a good actor a really good script that was it nailed Spider-Man up and down every aspect of the character, I think it would be possible to top Andrew Garfield.
Well, I think that's too, because Tobey was let's give Tobey credit. Was he a really he was kind of like an okay Spider-Man. He was a great Peter Parker, but an okay Spider-Man.
I think the subparness of Tobey Spider-Man is more a fault of the script than his performance.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, Spider-Man, if you just find a young, unknown actor who's really talented and can pull off comedy while at the same time pulling off dramatic, which is unique for Spider-Man, you can catch lightning in a bottle with Peter Parker, because he is that classic of a character that all you need is a young actor who loves the character, who respects the character, and can pull off a little bit of funny and whimsy, and also at the same time be serious and take it as a dramatic role.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. I mean, I should give Tobey Maguire his due props. He was a very good Peter Parker. I do enjoy Tobey Maguire. I do enjoy the Raimi films. I grew up on the Raimi films. The Raimi films, in my opinion, are fantastic. I do agree that Spider-Man 3 has its problems. I don't dislike Spider-Man 3 as much as some people do. I think there are very, very good parts to it, but I definitely think that there are some faults to it. Tobey Maguire, I thought he was a very good Peter Parker. I agree that the writing for Spider-Man could have been better. Overall, Tobey's Spider-Man was okay for me. What always kind of bugged me whenever he would get hit and he would like groan or yell or anything. It just sounded really awkward and really weird. I mean, I know that's how groaning and yelling is supposed to sound, but it's hard for me to describe. It's just like,
hey, would you rather be the 90s cartoon where it was always Mary Jane? No,
Mary Jane. Oh man.
But I think well, I just want to ask a question for you guys. This has nothing to do with the conversation, but just talking about Spider-Man actors. Do you guys prefer Christopher Daniel Barnes or Josh Keaton?
Oh, Christopher Daniel Barnes, right now.
I have to go with him too, because I'm going to show my age here compared to you guys. I remember being 4 years old and watching that first Lizard episode and being like, wow, this, because you're a kid, you're not going to the comic book stores, even though I lived across the street to one at the time. You just see, oh my God, this guy, and it's from the people who brought me the X-Men, and then you watch it, he's funny, but he's also serious. This Spider-Man guy is awesome! You know, like, that's the way I felt as 4 years old watching that first episode.
And when I was...
Lizard's scary!
And when I saw the '90s show for the first time when I was 6 years old, you know, that was you know, Christopher Daniel Barnes as Spider-Man. He is still Spider-Man to me to this day. He's the voice that I hear when I read the comics.
I still have somewhere in my room my Happy Meal of Christopher Daniel Barnes Spider-Man with the original suit he was going to wear in the show. Because that was a later thing where they decided, let's put him in the T-shirt because we wanted to show off his muscles. Because for some reason, Saban, which was the company that was backing the Marvel cartoons, wanted him to show off his muscles for some stupid reason. But he originally was going to have a jacket, like a brown jacket over that, and the toy has that. And you flip the head, and it's like one head's like Peter Parker, and the other head's the half mask. Yeah, that one, kind of like that. And it's hilarious when you do the flip head. When I was a kid, I didn't have a Two-Face toy yet for Batman, so I'd always flip headed to the half Spider-Sense side. And because you're a kid and with your imagination, that was my Two-Face until I got a Two-Face toy.
I had this is really funny. I didn't have a Green Goblin action figure for a long time when I was like, you know, in second grade. So I remember I had like a Buzz Lightyear, and I used to use him as the Green Goblin. So, because he was green, so I like pretended that he was a Green Goblin when I was
to the bridge and beyond.
Yeah. So I'm a Josh Keaton guy. I think he's my Spider-Man voice. Do you guys both like Josh Keaton?
I love Josh Keaton. I just think Christopher Daniel Barnes embodied the character better.
You hear this from a lot of people, and I sound like a broken record. I think Baritone, like Joshua Baritone, you know, he used to do the Clone Saga Chronicles and maybe Spider-Man Classics and stuff like that. He said this, and I agree with him because this is the way I felt too growing up with those cartoons and when I got into the comics. When I read a panel, and it's going to sound crazy, I know, but I don't care. When you hear these voices when you're reading the panels, I hear the cartoon. I hear the original 90s Fox cartoon. When I hear Cassidy, it's the cartoon. When I hear Eddie Brock or Venom, it's the cartoon. When I hear Harry, it's the cartoon. When I hear Gwen, I hear the cartoon. You know, she was only in for like one episode. When I hear
the Kingpin, when I hear Kingpin and Doc Ock, those are the voices I hear. I can't hear anybody else.
I hear the Goblin's weird with me. When I hear the Goblin, when it's the Green Goblin, I hear the animated series. But now recently, when I hear Norman, it's Defoe.
I kind of, for me, I'm like a mix of a whole bunch of different things, like for different characters. So for me, I hear like Josh as Spider-Man. I hear Venom from the Spectacular cartoon. I hear Harry from. Now I've actually kind of Dane DeHaan is kind of originally it was the one from the Spectacular cartoon. Now I kind of heard
Franco a few times when I read like After Brand Day, like the first early issues when they were really trying to make him act like James Franco because Spider-Man 3. I heard Franco's voice coming out of him, but then after that, it started to slowly die out, and I was hearing the 90s cartoon.
Yeah, but for Kingpin, I definitely hear the 90s cartoon. For Doc Ock, I hear Spectacular. I love you guys. Peter McNichol, who voiced Doc Ock in the Spectacular cartoon, is one of my favorite actors. So he's just hearing him as Doc Ock is like a treat for me. I think he's just a brilliant performer.
It's like this, like there was no Carly Cooper back during the 90s animated cartoon. But the closest parallel with a blonde bitch with glasses, Deb Whitman. So I hear Deb Whitman's voice from the animated series when I read Carly.
Who do you hear for Aunt May, the cartoon?
The 90s.
Yeah. Well,
really
for Norman.
Really, if you ask me, oh, whose voice do you hear for this, and this character? It's going to be the 90s show.
Yeah, pretty much. The two books that I always have in my pull list, no matter what, it comes and goes with some titles, whether it be the Avengers or Fantastic Four or Superman, whatever, depending on the creative team or the storyline or whatever. But the two that are always on my pull list, Batman, Spider-Man. I hear the 90s Batman cartoon, and I hear the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, I hear more of the Arkham games for Batman when I read those comics, but
Which was a 90s cartoon.
yeah, but some of them aren't. Like Scarecrow was a '90s cartoon. He's a different guy. I actually met the guy who voiced Scarecrow in the Arkham games. I have his autograph.
All right, So we were talking about some films and stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Back off the.
Maybe just general stories we'd like to see if it did go to Marvel or.
Well, we're not done yet. What I wanted to move on to right now is we've talked about Andrew Garfield. We've talked about the idea of him not coming along if the rights go to Marvel. But I also want to discuss something that came up. This is not confirmed anywhere. But this is something that came up. Apparently, even if Sony does continue with this, Garfield is already out. Because apparently,
I think.
Because apparently Sony fired him 3 months ago. Now this is what I want to give my.
I doubt it. I think 3 months ago he's talking about doing more Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, because apparently they fired him in October, and this is what I want. This is what I want to say about this. There were two reasons given for this alleged firing. One is that interview he did where he talked about how the studio and them cutting scenes from ASM2 was what ruined that movie. Now I'll get onto that in a minute. But the second one was that apparently he didn't show up to a corporate dinner because he canceled with less than an hour of notice. Here's the reason, though. Why did he cancel? Tell me that reason. And here's the thing. If I know Andrew Garfield, I mean, I don't know Andrew Garfield personally, so I can't speak for him, but he does not seem to me like the kind of guy, based on how much I've seen of how much he loves this character, how much he loves what he's doing, I don't see him really skipping out on that big of a corporate dinner for that kind of stuff. So
unless it's a good excuse.
Yeah, it's like I really want to hear, what was the reason? Why did he miss? I really want to know.
It's all just rumors.
I mean, exactly. It's like it's kind of why I'm taking this all with a grain of salt, but I just want to get your guys' opinion on it. It's like, okay, will you provide me with a reason for it? Because I want to hear that. And also, the only thing that I could actually find kind of believable about that, but I really don't think that they would fire him because of this, because it's really only one interview. But the whole thing with him saying that Sony ruined ASM2, I'm not going to pretend like that was a smart move on his part. Even though he wasn't wrong with what he said,
I think he said it on the podcast. After he said it, like that's a wrong move. You shouldn't blame your studio for it. Like I think we said that like months ago on the podcast.
We would have been done when he said that.
Yeah, because that was in September. He wasn't wrong, but the thing was, I mean, someone told me you don't bite the hand that feeds you. That's true. That is a true statement, so I'm not going to pretend like that was a smart move on his part, but it's just like, I really don't think that Sony would be that, I'm going to say this, I don't think Sony would be that dumb to throw away the best part of their franchise over one interview. And really, it was one paragraph. It was one paragraph of an interview. I really don't think...
These are the guys who thought that Sandman killing Uncle Ben was a good idea. I wouldn't put it past him, honestly.
But to be honest, that's a storytelling standpoint. That's not from a social standpoint.
I mean, I don't think Sony has good judgment at all. Like, I mean, some of the stuff in those emails is ridiculous. Like, I don't know if you've read them. I've read through.
But here's the thing, though. How much of those emails are real? How much of those emails are real?
I assume most of them. Most, like, legitimate news I follow have reported on it.
No, here's the thing, though. The people who are releasing those interviews have come out and said some of this stuff is absolute BS that we've made up.
Well, I think some of it's real. Like, I think some of the ridiculous stuff they said is real. But
well, you gotta remember, this is Sony. When you read some of those hacks that don't even involve around Spider-Man, they're trashing actors and using stereotypical racial slurs and sexist remarks about them.
Don't even get me started.
Them getting mad at an actor for calling them out in an interview, or them getting mad at an actor for no showing a public thing for a private, company dinner.
those same people in the hacks that are in those emails that are saying these things about actors, I think I can see those people being like, he didn't want to come to our dinner. I don't care what his excuse is. Screw him. He's fired. I can see that happening.
I do kind of agree, but it's just like to me, I guess it's just the basis of the fact that I don't believe that anyone in their right, whether they're in their right mind or not, I don't believe that anyone could be that dumb to throw him away like that. I just personally don't believe that.
They probably have an ego, though. They probably see, we replaced Toby, we can replace him.
Well, here's the thing. We all at least like Andrew, right? I mean, we all think he was a good Spider-Man. There's a lot of people out there that, I mean, I think Andrew has been.
In most movies, anytime he put on that mask, I saw Spider-Man.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that don't agree with us, that think he was terrible. Now, I don't understand how they can do
Those
that.
people are still living in 2007. Those are the same people who think that Renew Your Vows is going to be undoing the Mephisto deal. Those are the same people living 10 years in the past.
Here's the thing. I don't mean to insult anybody, but I do think that people who say that Andrew Garfield is not a good Peter Parker or not a good Spider-Man really need to realize it is not 1962 anymore. It is not 2002 anymore. It is 2015. Get over it.
Well, look at the Raimi movies are coming out and being made around the same time. Ultimate.
I don't think that. Go ahead, James. I interrupted you.
I was going to say that Ultimate was coming out around the same time as the Raimi movies, right?
Yeah.
And the Ultimate comic book got more of a teenage Peter Parker. The MTV Spider-Man cartoon, for all the shit you give it, was more in line to what a new millennium Peter Parker at that time, a 2002, 2003, 2001 Peter Parker would be, than the Raimi movies. The Raimi movies still had that whole kind of revenge of the nerd stereotype going on with it.
Because
that was already getting out of date in 2002. 2012, it was really out of date.
Oh, it's like I watched Spider-Man 1 not too long ago, and it shows its age now. It really does.
I watched Spider-Man 1 New Year's Eve. And
I don't want to bash the Raimi movies. I don't, because I still remember the final few days of school as like an end of the year trip. Our teacher said if we did good and we all graduated in elementary school, which we all were going to do anyway, so it was more just like an excuse to have us do all our homework pretty much and do our work and not badmouth our teachers. They would take us to a movie, the class voted Spider-Man. I remember being in the movie theater. I think I said this before on the podcast, in a class field trip, seeing Spider-Man 1.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't hate the Raimi movies at all. Even though Spider-Man 1 shows its age, now, I do still think it's a good movie. But it shows its age.
I actually like Spider-Man 1
movie is when we're leaving and we're all talking, and my one teacher, Miss Navarro, who I hated, she was a bitch. I hated her. She literally was a bitch. She thought because she was the special ed teacher, and they didn't have enough quota for special ed needs kids, they thought, let's take James, who's kind of the quiet, kid who doesn't really have much friends. Let's try to say that he has special needs, and I was proven not to be, and she really hated that. She gave me a hard time about it, and yeah, really, what a nice teacher. Because I wasn't special needs, she gave me shit. And she was on the bus, and my biggest memory is her we just saw the movie, and she for the life couldn't say the Green Goblin. She kept on saying the Greenie Meanie. That one-off Jonah line where he calls him the Greenie Meanie as a joke, and she thinks that was legitimately the character's name.
Oh, even though Peter calls him Goblin multiple times afterward.
If anyone heard that was my faith in humanity being broken some more.
Oh, that's in 2002, man. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to. I watched Amazing One because I've been in a Spider-Man mood lately, and I watched Spider-Man 1 for that was like my New Year's Eve celebration. I was going to ring in the new year by watching Spider-Man 1 again because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I actually enjoyed it way more than the last few times I'd watched it. I was starting to get a little bit weary of it, like, oh yeah, it's okay, but I think I really enjoyed it, and I think I actually like it as much as Spider-Man 2. I think it's a great movie, so I'm not hating on it by any means. I love that movie. So
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us are hating on the Raimi films.
Let me say this
Ra-
about Amazing Spider-Man, about the first Spider-Man movie, the first Raimi movie. Let me say this. Do you want to know how much I love that movie? I hate Nickelback like 90% of the country does. But yet, on my iPod, whenever Hero comes on, I sing along to it because I just remember being 12 years old, watching it in the movie theater with a school field trip, and then months later getting the DVD and watching the DVD, watching the special features, watching the trailers, watching behind the scenes, learning some of the Spider-Man history around the time I started getting into comic books, from that DVD. And I get nostalgic thoughts about how that was like the golden years of Spider-Man was after the first movie, and Spider-Man 2 to some degree, because that was a great, awesome, amazing superhero movie. But Spider-Man 1 still has that spot in my heart. Is that I always liked Spider-Man, and he was always one of my favorite superheroes. But I fell in love with the character because of that first Raimi movie.
Absolutely, yeah. and so with these thoughts on I'm just gonna say it right now. If Sony has fired Andrew Garfield, they are just I can't even fathom that.
They didn't. They didn't. I don't think they did.
Yeah,
I think that's people. Like the people who made the headlines that they replaced him with Tobey. Because there was a one-off tweet by some fan saying, "I want Tobey to return for Amazing Spider-Man 3," and these websites that ran with it, even another Spider-Man forum ran with it. I'm not going to name names, but people ran with it. That I did that as a joke, even like as a troll. Like I admit, I was like a troll on CBR when I posted they want Tobey back, but I did that sarcastically, and I'm like, oh my god, people are actually going to start believing this.
That's the problem with sarcasm on message boards. It's like it's text. It's harder to tell, but really I think it's not that much harder sometimes.
I mean, I did it as a joke because who honestly in their right mind thinks that Tobey, if Andrew Garfield's getting up there in age to play this character, what do you think Tobey's going to be playing that character?
Tobey Maguire is 40 years old.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Tobey Maguire is 40 years old. So,
I know this ain't going to happen, and some people think it is going to happen, but it's not. But let's say in some weird parallel universe, some weird chance in hell or whatever you want to say, Tobey becomes Spider-Man again. They went up to Raimi and they said, "We screwed up with the reboot. Come back, do whatever you want, do Spider-Man 4," and it comes out. I don't think that's going to be a good movie because it's too late. It's literally wrong place, wrong time. That Spider-Man is dead.
Watch Tobey comes back to play Mayday Parker's father in a Spider-Girl movie.
I can see that, but I can't see him coming back at his age to play Peter.
Oh no, absolutely not. And so I mean that was part of it. It's like people are saying Tobey Maguire should come back, and it's just. And I want to get you guys' casting thoughts on the big actor that I've heard thrown around for a possible MCU Spider-Man. Logan Lerman.
I've heard. I don't know how true this is. I read on a. Oh wow, I sound really stupid. I just did one of those mental things where you think about what you're about to say and realize how much of a dumbass you sound like. I was gonna say I read on Reddit, so obviously this is completely 100% true, and you can take it without any grains of salt.
The only time Reddit is ever true is when it comes to wrestling, because there's some guy who works for the WWE who goes on Reddit and spoils events before they happen, saying, "Don't order this pay-per-view, this is what the plan is." Literally, I'm not kidding you.
Exactly. So, take this with a huge, big, fat grain of salt. But I've heard several places say, and Reddit was the main one, that Marvel is kind of already looking at a few actors in case they get the rights, which it looks like that might happen. And apparently, you said Logan Lerman is being thrown around a lot, and another guy named Dylan O'Brien is being thrown around a lot. And So Dylan O'Brien, he's the have you heard of Teen Wolf, the TV series?
Yes.
He's the funny best friend.
Yeah.
What?
My sister watches it at nauseum. So yeah. Okay.
Well, he's the funny best friend on that show, and he was also the star in a movie called the Maze Runner movie that just came out, and So I think it's him. It sounds like he's a potential actor, and Logan Lerman's a potential actor. And I just saw Maze Runner this week, and after watching him in that, I actually, if these rumors are true, which they're probably not, but if they were true, I'd support him just because he looks a lot like what I expect Peter Parker to look like, and he also sounds like Josh Keaton. So, and he was really good in that movie. He had some pretty emotional scenes, and he showed a lot of acting range. So I think he'd be a good Spider-Man. And Logan Lerman could be pretty good too. So,
see, here's the thing: I've never seen. I mean, maybe I have seen things with these guys in them. I don't know. I've really never even heard of these guys before. But I saw a picture of this Logan Lerman guy. I saw a picture of him, and let's just say I think the guy kind of looks like he's 10. I'm sorry, but I feel like the guy kind of just looks a bit too young for the role. I mean, I think
Teenage Peter, I can see that.
If they are going for Teenage Peter, then yes. But from what I hear, they want to do like an older Spider-Man. Like they want to do Spider-Man like in his mid-20s. Like I read that somewhere.
Not too much older, because the Marvel Studios says we want to do 30-year-old Peter Parker. And like, but then why won't you let the comics do that? And then you said mid-20s.
To be honest, you're gonna get people complaining if they do anything with anything they do. People like to complain, but I mean Logan Lerman, I'm sure he's Logan Lerman, I don't know anything about him, so I'm just going to assume that he's a good actor. I'm going to assume that he's a fantastic guy. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, if he's good for the role, then obviously, I'll support him. But I'm not sure about him right now. But it's something I'd be willing to be open to.
Definitely, if the act, like I said, like I already said, if the actor can, sorry about that, my phone. If the actor can pull off a young Peter Parker, not a young, like a young up and coming actor who's relatively unknown, maybe has a few things to his credits, but really unknown, who's very talented, and he can pull off the comedy and the drama. That's all I want.
It's definitely a case of we'll get there. We'll see when we get there. It really depends on just the quality of the work, really. And so I mean, really. What else came out from these Sony hacks? I think we've hit all the main beats, really. I mean,
just that it's all rumor. Besides for the emails, those are legit. But everything past the emails is all speculation. It's all rumor.
I mean, I think we've hit all the main beats that need to be addressed with these.
So what do you guys say about the two guys?
I believe that next month, once we get an Age of Ultron trailer or something, they're going to have something, and Marvel's going to say, they're going to have like a trailer, for the Avengers or Ant-Man or whatever that's going to come out in February, and it's going to say it's all going to build up to, I can't speak right now, Age of Ultron. They're going to have a shot of Captain America, or something, and it says Captain America, Civil War, they show Ant-Man, they show whatever, and then it all builds up to Infinity Gauntlet, and you see a shot of Thanos, and then all of a sudden you get like a web, and it says, and something amazing, and the whole place is going to go on the internet, it's Spider-Man! Like, I truly believe that in the next few months, we're going to hear that Spider-Man's with the MCU.
According to some sources, 7 Webheads on YouTube is a fairly strong source for this. Apparently, there is a Sony Marvel Spider-Man Summit that's supposed to happen sometime this month, January of 2015. So they'll probably get a press release out sometime shortly after that. So we'll get some news about it then, and
I think that's from the Reddit rumor. The Reddit rumor is
No,
that
I've read
Sony's
that.
going to vote on if they're going to give it to Marvel, and then by February, Marvel's going to announce it, and then that they're already getting actors ready because the announcement's coming next month if the Sony vote and the Summit says we're going to give you guys Spider-Man.
No, James, I think the summit is happening. I'm pretty sure
Well, I
that's
think
been.
it's happening no matter what, but I think everybody heard about the Summit because that's where they're going to do the vote, supposedly rumor, about if they're going to give the rights or not.
Yeah, but I think the summit's a legit thing. So I had to leave for a brief time, as you guys probably noticed. What did you guys say about the two actors that we were talking about?
We're gonna have to wait and see. We're just gonna have to wait and see with those guys. But basically, we've hit all the main points about the Sony hacks. We've hit all the main points about the speculation. And so what I think I want to do now is just go into a little, just a short little, I guess, allegory from I don't know what the word would be, from each panelist, just about what we would like to see in the future of the Spider-Man film series, in the Spider-Man film brand, as you will. So, James, we'll start with you. What is your ideal future for the Spider-Man films?
This is not going to happen like you said, and I'm not going to say, because I already said before about, I would bring in, one of the Sony franchises in, depending on what Peter Parker you wanted, an older or younger. But since that's out the door, I'm going to say this. The way I said this before on boards is that you would have Peter Parker in, not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker in Civil War. You have and the end credit scene being Peter Parker in a science lab with some, seeing a science experiment thing with radioactivity. He's taking photos of it for his school paper, and all of a sudden you see the spider land on him, the bite, boom. That's how you get the origin out of the way. You just get the post-end credit scene being nerdy Peter Parker at a science experiment thing at a laboratory with radioactivity, and he gets bit by the spider. Boom, you end it there. You go into the next Marvel movie, which would be Avengers, and then here comes swinging in to do some stuff Spider-Man. You introduce him there in mask in like a one-off scene, and then later on at the end, maybe he takes off his mask from the Avengers, and he says, I'm Peter Parker, blah, 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 and all that stuff. You get that kind of stuff out of the way. And then you have him there, and then from there, spin-off. And there you can do the flashbacks where you can have him fighting Norman or him fighting Doc Ock or whoever's going to be the villain. And then you have flashbacks of what happened post the spider bite. Okay, he went to go do wrestling and they become a star and his uncle got shot. And you can put in power responsibility once he found out it was the same guy who robbed whatever. And you can build that up in flashbacks where it doesn't have to be the whole movie, because you already established Spider-Man in the Avengers and other movies, but have flashbacks to being the Uncle Ben shot and the power and responsibility. And then you introduce his supporting cast there. You have Aunt May, you have Mary Jane, you have Gwen, you have Harry, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way I would do it from there on. And then have him being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then he eventually, marries the Mary Jane character in the Marvel Universe. Then they redo the Civil War storyline in the movies. He unmasks in front of the public, and then at the end of the movie, he makes a deal with the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Mephisto, and then they recast him, and then they just keep on recycling, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, that's
That last part was a joke. The Mephisto, One More Day, that was just a joke. I don't think they're going to do that. That's a perfect way if you want to do a Spider-Man recasting is One More Day.
Yeah. All right. So, Jan, what's your ideal future for the Spider-Man films?
I say have Spider-Man introduced and, be it a cameo in Civil War or Avengers Age of Ultron or Ant-Man or whatever they have to do. Get him a cameo, get him a movie as soon as possible. Don't, get an awesome filmmaker, give Spider-Man a movie that is every bit as good as Captain America's, not Civil War, Captain America Winter Soldier. Don't make it dark like Captain America Winter Soldier, but, make it as good a Spider-Man movie as Winter Soldier was a Captain America movie.
For a second, how do you feel about, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy getting it?
I think that'd be awesome. James Gunn, I think, would be a good pick.
Because that movie showed you can have the serious action Marvel movie with comedy.
I think James Gunn or the Russo brothers or any of those guys would be perfect for it. Get a good script, get a really good actor. I didn't really delve into my thoughts, so I did a little bit, but I think even though it's never going to happen, my dream choice for Peter Parker is always going to be Grant Gustin. That won't happen, but that would be if I had to cast it. That's who I'd pick. But get someone, get Dylan O'Brien or Logan Lerman or someone like that. Get a good actor who has passion for the character, like Andrew did, and who can play the duality of it. Just get, I don't know. I just want good Spider-Man movies. I want to have faith that Spider-Man can be great again in the movies. That's what I want. I just want, awesome Spider-Man again.
Yeah, because that was one of the things about the Raimi trilogy that I love them, and I'm not gonna bash too much about it. But like when you see those documentaries about the first movie, they're like, we asked the cast of this new Spider-Man movie if they read the comics, and then Toby's like, no. And then like Kirsten Dunst's been like, look at me, I'm a pretty girl. Do you think I'm reading Spider-Man comics? And then they cut to James Franco where he goes, I didn't really read the comics. They kind of acted like, oh, we're good-looking Hollywood actors. We're above this, And then they would go, but when it came to Sam Raimi, his answer was yes. It was always like that in interviews, and that's my problem. It's like that's where you get the difference. Is that for Toby, it felt like it was a job, or later he might have liked the character, and now he has a respect for Spider-Man. But at first, it was just a role for him. Where with Andrew, you really got a sense of he wanted to be Spider-Man his whole life.
Yeah.
All right, my ideal future for the Spider-Man franchise, I wouldn't mind it going to the MCU, but my ideal future is that Sony decides to just get rid of their spin-off plans, get rid of all that, let Mark and Andrew tell the Amazing Spider-Man 3 story the way they want to do it, keep Andrew around for one more movie, let them make the Amazing Spider-Man 3 that they want to make, then you're free to send Spider-Man over to the MCU. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to see the Amazing Spider-Man 3 that Mark and Andrew want to make, and even
You're
though
not going to get that, John.
Yeah, I know I'm not going to get it. There's no way I'm going to get that. There's no way I'm going to get it, but obviously, my ideal Spider-Man future, that's what I would want to see. But him going to the MCU, I wouldn't mind it, though. The casting of the character is always going to be something that I'm, cautious about, something that I keep a close eye on, and it's. If he does go over to the MCU, which seems to be the most likely option at this point, I hope they do him well. I hope they cast the character well, and I hope that they integrate him into the universe well. But ideally, I would like to see the Amazing Spider-Man 3 as Mark and Andrew would want to make it. So that's my answer as an ideal Spider-Man future.
It sounds like what you want is kind of like how they did The Dark Knight Rises. Even though they didn't have to sell it to another company, they kind of had Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale. Even though I don't like The Dark Knight Rises very much at all, I don't think it's a very good movie or a very good Batman movie, but I think they kind of let Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale kind of put their stamp on it, and then they kind of gave it over to Zack Snyder, and he's now kind of integrating Batman into a new version of Batman into the DC movie universe, So
that's a good analogy, I think. But overall,
that was different. That was more kind of like they did their trilogy and they did their thing and they were planning another Superman reboot, and then Avengers hit and DC were like, we need to do our own Avengers. Okay, but now we're gonna make the Superman franchise be the start of the DC movie universe. Where I think originally
it's kind of similar. How everyone kind of knew that The Dark Knight Rises was going to be that it was. I think everyone kind of knew going into The Dark Knight Rises that it was going to get immediately rebooted after that. You know what I mean?
It was obvious. The movie poster said the last Batman story, and everybody knows there's no way they're going to kill Batman stories in movies. Batman's a cash cow forever.
All right, so. And is there anything else with the outlook of the franchise that you guys can think of that we haven't hit on? To be honest, I can't really think of anything.
I just think that if this is the end of the Sony era, I think it's hard to say because you got the Raimi trilogies and then you got these two movies, and they're two different series and they should be judged on their own. But if you're gonna bunch them into Sony, I hate to say this because I like the Mark Webb movies, but I felt like when they bought the property there in the 90s, Sony, to where it is now, they had something that was red hot. You know, the superhero movies were dead in 97 because of Batman and Robin and stuff like that. And then because of them and X-Men, and Blade, boom, superheroes were big again. And now it's because of those movies, we now got the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We are getting Batman vs. Superman. We are getting Ninja Turtle reboots and Power Ranger reboots and Transformers. All these things that can be lumped in the superhero action, boys, toy, whatever you want to call it, genre. All these movies can thank Spider-Man and the X-Men movies for that. So their legacy is that they kickstarted the thing. But by the end of it, it's almost like when you have that rock band who's young and hungry, their first album, and they're the trendsetters, and they're the ones that are taking the world by storm, and they're the young guys that say, screw you to the old establishment, we're the new hit band. And then by the time they're onto their 12th reunion tour, they're just trying to keep up. They're just trying to latch on to whatever popular is.
I think that's a great analogy.
I'm a huge Kiss fan, but the Sony Spider-Man movies is Kiss in the 80s.
Even though
We're going to try to be the disco band. Okay, disco died. We're going to try to be the pop band. Oh, wait, the album didn't sell besides in Europe. We're going to be the artsy, statement-grabbing band with the Elder. Oh, wait, that album was a complete pile of shit. We're going to be heavy metal, hard rock again with Creatures. Didn't sell at all. Okay, now we're going to take off the makeup and be a glam band. Okay, you're doing kind of good. We're going to continue down the glam band, but be more Bon Jovi. Okay, you're kind of dying down here. We're Bon Jovi. No, you're not Bon Jovi. Oh, we're going to go back to hard rock. It's kind of working. Oh, makeup reunion tours. Boom. Like, that's literally what the Sony movies are like.
Go on.
I was gonna say, for me, in terms of Spider-Man movies, I don't think they made a single bad Spider-Man movie, but for me, they scored 4 out of 5. First two Raimi movies, and then the 2 Amazing movies. I thought were pretty good movies. So it's 4 out of 5 for me.
They were like a baseball stat. They had a few strikes here and there, like the Spider-Man cartoon on MTV, Sony did, and they had all their strikes like Spider-Man 3 or maybe Spider-Man 2, if you want to say. But they have had some home runs. They have knocked some things out of the park, too. Spider-Man 2, stuff like that.
I think, how about we just wrap this up? How about we go and give each movie, including Raimi's trilogy, a grade?
If you want, go for it.
You guys going to do it? Or am I going to be look like an idiot and do it on my own?
Anybody who listens to the podcast, they know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'm not going to do it then, because I'm not, so yeah, never mind. That was a bad idea. But.
All right.
Look at it this way, like the legacy, especially the Raimi movies, they have a legacy, especially the Raimi movies. Maybe not so much the web series, because that does pretty much MTV were trying to be hit with Spider-Man, kind of like they were doing with the MTV show. But the Raimi trilogy, there is some stuff that was in the movies that later on bled into the comics. The organic web shooters and Harry when he got rebooted in Brand New Day was basically James Franco.
Sandman having a kid.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's safe to wrap this up here. So thank you to everyone who has tuned in and watched our little 2-part pilot episode of this new Spider-Man Web Show podcast, whatever we're gonna do with it. Tune in. I'd say tune in next week. We're gonna be doing some stuff. It probably won't be on this feed, so I'll probably have James direct you to a different feed for it. But we're gonna be pushing some stuff out here in the coming weeks, and we're all pretty excited about it. So until next time, Jan, say goodbye to the listeners.
Later, guys. Hopefully you had fun listening to us go on and on.
James, say goodbye to the people.
I got a few things to say before we sign off. First, I can say now that this 2-part pilot went great, and we are going to fish kind of with the whole kind of bi-weekly thing we're thinking of doing with it. I just gotta say it. We're back. And secondly, of course, you're on the AGR feed, so just tune in tomorrow night. We're gonna do remember the old Spider Jeopardies on the crawl space? Yeah, we're gonna be doing that with Power Rangers, and we did that the last year too. It's gonna be called Power Jeopardy, and we're gonna do Power Ranger versions of Jeopardy. It's our kind of Christmas/New Year's tradition. So tune into that on AGR right here on the AGR channel page, because AGR is AGR, and John gets really mad when I plug AGR on this show.
I don't get mad. I just kind of roll my eyes.
Sony, you lied to me. You rebooted Spider-Man and you want to do it again. You're tearing me apart, Sony.
All right. Let's just goodbye to the people. See you next time.